Yes, oh yes, this Washington County Board of County Commissioners, kind of session pursuant to adjournment. Honorable Chairman Greg Madley presiding, remain.
Dear Lord, once again, we humbly
thank you for this day, for the lives that you have provided us with, dear Lord. Lord, give us knowledge, wisdom, and patience to do the work of this county this evening, Lord. Help us realize what the priorities are, the actions that we need to take, and do it properly. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Let's honor America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us over to the roll call screen, go ahead and indicate your presence here this evening. Commissioner Malone, will you check your battery, see if yours is working? Thank you. All right, we have 13 present and 2 absent. We do have a quorum. Next item is the approval of the agenda. We do have a couple of agenda changes for this evening.
Make a move on the agenda.
You have a motion to approve the agenda.
I want to make a move prior to approving the agenda.
Okay. All right. She wants to move something on the agenda. We do have a couple of items. Ms. Wilkinson, we have talked and we have decided to move our executive session. Isn't that correct?
That's correct, thank you.
We would like to remove that from the agenda this evening.
And I would like to just bring that to your attention next month, so you can look forward to that next month rather than this evening. Thank you.
All right. All right, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Wait a minute.
Commissioner Williams?
I would like to move that we move the discussion and a decision, if it is to be made, of the election commission to when the business starts, rather than at the near end of the agenda.
Okay. Would you like to move that
I move that.
prior to the public hearing or afterward?
No, I mean after the public hearing.
After the public hearings? And before the rezoning? Okay. So that would be moving it to item. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Fitzgerald. Also, we would need to remove the executive session from the agenda. Will you accept that into your motion, Commissioner Williams?
Yes, I agree to make include in my motion that remove the executive session.
Thank you.
Are you putting in here about CIA?
You got a second it?
Or are you putting in?
I think, right, I think you have a second.
Thank you, sir.
All right, who was the second on that? Who was our second? Commissioner Fisher, do you accept that? Thank you, Commissioner. All right. Any further discussion on the agenda? Questions been called? All in favor of approving the agenda as amended, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. And the agenda is approved. Next, we'll move into our public comment portion of the program, of our meeting. During public comment, if you signed up prior to our meeting, I'll call your name and you'll come forward to the podium and you'll have 3 minutes to address the commission. As we get close to the end of your 3 minutes, I'll let you know. We appreciate you coming to speak tonight. And our first speaker tonight is Roger Drake. I think Roger was here the last time. Roger, if you'll come forward to the podium and give the clerk your address.
Thank you very much for hearing me. A lot of folks have shown up this evening from down at Bailey Bridge and quite a number from the Lamar community. We are quite concerned about the ongoing issues with Bitcoin, but we have been in contact with some companies who specialize in dealing with noise problems. And I bring before the County Commission one group called Noise Solutions. I gave this information to Commissioner Harris, but of course he's not here this evening. But Noise Solution is a 25-year-old company that deals in industrial noise suppression. That's their entire business. They do business all over the world. And this is one example of a company that could help potentially with the noise problem at Bailey Bridge. So I bring that to you. The second point that I want to make is in today's newspaper. I was Friday at the county courthouse to see that no application for change of zoning had been submitted on the property down at Lamar Community next to the power board. And so I read in today's paper something that I don't understand, and I'd like, and I realize that you folks didn't write it, but perhaps you could give us some clarification. It says on page 2, resolutions to amend the county's zoning codes to deal with accessory structures in agricultural districts. Well, I don't know what that means. Perhaps you fellas could explain what zoning code changes, and does that imply a possibility that this will allow another Bitcoin operation to slide in the back door because we changed zoning? I can assure you that there are about 200 families that I'm speaking for that are voters and taxpayers in good standing in this community, and they don't want that Bitcoin put into our area, nor do we want it turned into some industrial heap second stage by some company that wants to change from agriculture to industrial and put that in our backyard. We have an industrial park. If industry comes into this community, that's welcome, but it needs to be done in an orderly, properly supervised capacity. And having said that, I want to just back up and hit on and touch on this idea of a slaughterhouse here in Washington County. My wife and I have a small herd of registered cattle, and we do submit them to slaughter occasionally. The next date I've got for a slaughter of a beef is next March the 19th up in Abingdon, Virginia. I submit that I'm not the only one who raises beef in Washington County. And it would be very helpful if we had a fine facility in our area. It would be good business, and it would be good for our farming and agriculture community. With these issues in mind, I'd be glad to share anything about this noise solution company to help the folks at Bailey Bridge suppress that noise down there. And in preparation for this meeting, I was down there Friday, and Bitcoin has divided the units. There are two sets of units, if you'll allow that. And down the middle,
I'm afraid you reached your 3 minutes.
they built a 10-foot fence, aluminum fence. I don't think that solves the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next speaker is Preston Hawley. Preston, if you'll come forward.
Sure thing. I'm Preston Hawley, 325 Lola Humphreys Road, right across the road from the Bitcoin. And again, we're all here to voice a lot of the same thing. Our concerns have been made very well known. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of help from local media, the television, the newspaper. It's been very well shared. A lot of interest from those not directly affected. We have a lot of people voicing support who don't live there, who live outside of the area, and are very bothered by kind of how this works. Local political leaders, some commissioners, state leaders have been, very well to listen, and we very much appreciate that. The concern, however, is that the lack of information. It's been 2 months since several of us came here and spoke. Those who are responsible for making the decisions with this facility, aren't really doing anything at this point, and I know that's going to be addressed tonight, to reach out or to let us know. I know that too much information is probably bad, but at the same time, we want to know what's going on and what's going to be done, because this noise is constant. We're seeing so many changes in our community. Some of us have noticed less wildlife. We don't see the deer we usually see. We don't see the turkey we usually see. That constant noise, I'm sure it affects them in some way. But the little to no outreach is a concern, and I would love to see that changed, hopefully, again, with maybe the meeting tonight. A gentleman who works for Bright Ridge, one of the engineers who is overseeing the noise meters in our community. They were placed the last couple of weeks, and they've been running, and I'm hoping to hear some from that data. He's been very kind, very helpful, and I can't call him by name because I couldn't remember, so I don't want to mess it up. But we were very happy and very pleased with his outreach to us, but I know he's not the decision maker or anything like that. So, we feel like more information should have been given when the concerns were first made. We don't want to dwell on what you should have done. Nobody likes to be treated that way. I have a wife. I have children. Here's what you should have done, Daddy. I know that. So we won't dwell on that. But once we receive this information, what's going to be done with it? Is the readings from this decibel reader going to say, hey, we're within the legal limits, there's not a problem? What was the decibel level in Limestone before this came? So I don't care what the legal limit is. Anything is different and hurts the community. Or is it going to say, there's clearly an issue here that we know we need to address. We don't want to be left out because we're a small community. We don't want to be unheard because there's not a whole lot of us. That's really not fair. And if this is going to be a trend with money and technology of the future, these things can't just be popping up doing things to communities like ours, because if we set the standard, others may follow, and it could adversely affect everybody. I hope that this information will be taken seriously, and I know that you all as a body have and are taking this seriously. Bright Ridge, it's the community that you serve. We deserve to know what's going on, and we've been reasonable in our requests. We've not been nasty. We've not been unkind. I don't believe that helps anybody. I don't like being spoken to like that. I'm usually a pretty quiet person, but I do want to stand up for our community. We deserve better. So I thank you very much for taking the time to listen to us.
Thank you, Mr. Hawley. Our next speaker is David Hawley.
I'm not David Hawley, I want to speak on his behalf.
Okay, if you'll give your name and address to the clerk, sir.
I'm Dr. Craig Ponder, pastor of New Salem Baptist Church, 421 Lester Snap Road, down in Limestone. And I come before the commission tonight heavy-hearted over a community that I've come to love. Been there 18 years, and I spoke last time, and I would use the same phraseology tonight. We feel like we've been invaded. We feel as if we've been sold a bill of goods that none of us asked for. We're enduring some disadvantages that bring nothing to us in return. Our lives have been turned upside down in many ways. I don't live as close as Preston does, but I was at my house yesterday morning prior to church, and you might have saw the post. I was in my house with the door closed, with the television on, and I could still hear this noise in my bathroom. I mean, it's that, and we live probably a half mile from the position. I am glad to say that I have spoken with some representatives from Red Dog Industries, and I'm feeling much more positive about the future. But I still feel led to go on record to say that the very act that this is going on with no direct impact to our community other than the negative is what's been affecting us the most. It has affected property values in our community. It's impacted quality of life in ways that none of us would have expected. I feel for Preston and his family because of not only the sound, but the lights. They're carrying blackout curtains in their house in addition to the sound, the lights that are burning 24/7. I told the folks today on the phone with Red Dog that it's getting worse. I was told by the county commissioner, the Bright Ridge people, that it would be worse from 10 o'clock at night to 1 o'clock in the morning, but it's progressively gotten louder, middle of the day, middle of the afternoon, it doesn't matter. And perhaps it has to do with the winds, perhaps it has to do with weather conditions, and it very likely does. But I just felt led to step forward and continue voicing those same concerns. And I'm excited that it's on the agenda, and I'll step out of the way and let some folks talk that have the same kind of concerns. But I just wanted to make sure that we're a voice. It was quoted as saying that's why it was built in the middle of nowhere. We were told by that from boots on the ground at that facility. That's why we built this in the middle of nowhere. And it's time that folks recognize that they're not in the middle of nowhere, that we're voting constituents of this county, and our voices will be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Al Bullis. Al, you'll come forward to the podium. All right. Our next speaker is Davey. Thank you, Davey. I appreciate that. You can come forward and give your name and address to the clerk.
The name is Davey Funderburk. We get all kinds of mail. You should see, we started a collection of mailing labels one time with all the different ways that's spelled. The address is 154 Barwick Road in Limestone. So thank you for providing a way for us to speak on this. And I'm just going to stick to what I wrote. And so we looked for almost 2 years for land that would fit our desires for a quiet country place to raise our kids. So we bought our land near New Salem a year ago, and it was quiet and peaceful, and as a bonus, I could hear the river, reminding me that at least we got close to some water, even though we couldn't get a creek on the property. So I could hear the river, and then that was all right. Now, instead of the river, though, we hear a constant roar, and we hear it during the most peaceful parts of our day, the morning and the evening, and we live over a mile from the Red Dog station. So I also speak just to have another voice for the people that live even closer. A few quick questions and comments, and a lot of this is things that have already been said, but I would be interested to know who approved this, knowing there would be noise, that can hear the noise from their house. You know, that's, I love technology, we love technology, we just don't want to hear it. And I hear from Bright Ridge and Red Dog that we're working on it, which I appreciate that. But a lot of times when you hear that, it can take a very long time, and even can mean that you're hoping that we'll forget about it, or just kind of become accustomed to it. Unfortunately, we have some reason for distrust at this point. We would like to know the plan, the timeline, and regular, like bi-weekly updates to show the progress, so that we know that it's not just being shuffled aside. In closing, I realize the whole project is about profit. Profit for you, possibly other businesses and organizations, maybe the region. However, we right now are the ones paying a cost for this without the benefit. We shouldn't have to pay the cost for others to profit. And because of this, I realize change may not happen until it affects someone's pocketbooks or comfort or their image. However, I would like to appeal to your responsibility as community members, and I appeal to whoever can address this and continue to work on it until it's done. I would ask you, whoever you are, to lead the change. Don't make us keep having to come and, we will, but don't make us push and push and push for the change. When some of you spend time addressing the problem, you get paid for your time because that's your job, but we don't. We give up family evenings like this to be here, and we don't get paid, but it's important to us. So we ask that you follow through with persistence, expediency, and frequent, clear communication with the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, our next speaker is Laura Thunderberg. I think I did better with yours, Laura. It's amazing what a little training will do.
I chose to speak tonight because we didn't know how long 3 minutes would last, and this is our first time to speak at a commissioners meeting, and thought we may need to expand on that, what my husband said just a little bit. So yes, this is my husband, same home, same noise I hear from the front porch in the morning, and people know at my house I like the quiet. I have 5 children, so the few minutes of quiet I get, I really enjoy. So waking up in the bed, when I wake up now in the morning, I can hear it. Even though I have a small fan that I run for a child, I can still hear it over that. And so in the evenings in the front porch, that sort of thing, it's still running. I can't imagine people that are living closer. It's not just affecting us. There's a lot of people. So I think I wanted to come and say that it's affecting people all over the community. Neighbor down the road, she showed me a video today of the noise that she recorded from her front porch in the morning. Also, the value of people's homes is something to consider. So we're asking whoever's running this business, Bright Ridge, Red Dog, whoever's profiting, I know it's a business thing, but whoever's profiting can consider the people that are paying the cost on that and what costs those are. It's the noise as well as the value of their home. We think it's reasonable to ask you to lower the sound or remove the project if you can't lower the sound. There's lots of technology, so I'm sure lowering the sound is possible. I just don't know how much it costs. So there's that whole thing, but we're asking you not to ask us to pay that cost for that profit. So find some way to do that, or pay us for it. Find some way to make that fair and reasonable. So the next steps, again, I think I'm really just confirming that we want communication. Because you can feel like you're being shoved off, because you're the quiet person, you're the nobody or the nowhere, maybe. You could be viewed maybe that way. And so we're asking for communication, which is anything we'd ask of any neighbor in our community. What we're asking of Bright Ridge and Red Dog is what we'd ask of any neighbor. This is all how we treat one another, and they're like another neighbor in our community, except they don't live there to feel the same. You know how it is with your neighbors. You treat your neighbor the way you want to be treated. Well, they're not there, so they don't get that personal treatment. And so we're here to kind of show that this affects us. So thank you for giving us a platform to be able to communicate with them and hearing this conversation for us.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Nancy Cavanaugh. Nancy, if you'll come forward to the podium, please.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Cavanaugh. I live at 112 East College Street in Jonesboro, and I'm here to talk about Red Dog, but I want to turn the page, and I want to talk about energy, and I want to talk about the amount of energy that is being provided to this company, Red Dog, and it's coming from TVA, which is primarily coal and gas-fired production of energy. And so I think we all know climate change, and I don't need to belabor that point. But Red Dog also said when they were coming here that they would be installing a solar farm. And we've seen no evidence of a solar farm or a solar project that would provide energy, the huge, copious quantities of energy that are needed for both the production and then after the energy is used, the amount of carbon that is put into the air having to do with climate It's an egregious amount, along with the amount of noise. And you know, noise has been in use with prisoners. They have used it as a treatment. Nelson Mandela was subjected to horrific noise all the years that he was incarcerated. It's been used with prisoners around the world to drive them crazy. So it's not unusual for the people here to be anxious about the sound, and I know someone else this evening is going to speak more about the noise and what noise does to us. But I want your attention also to be on the amount of energy that is consumed. The solar farm is not built, and the amount of carbon that is emitted into the atmosphere in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Francis Lambert. Francis, you'll come forward to the podium, please.
Thank you for letting me speak, and I think I'm going to speak about something similar to what Ms. Nancy just said. I have a letter, and many people in Washington County will share the concern, and I brought a letter which Mr. Matherly kindly said I might bring to you, and so it might be in your packet. It elaborates on this, and it has many signatures. I'm Francis Lambert. I've lived in Jonesboro for a very long time. Because it's relevant to the issue, I also want to tell you, for 20 years I had solar panels on my house to lower my carbon footprint with regard to the climate. And when the solar panels finally had to come down at the end of the year, since then, I'm on the waiting list for Brightridge solar energy. And it is in the context of the climate crisis that we are now facing. Hundreds of people dying in the heat waves and in the floods, and 1,000 people in our western states on one day having to go to the emergency room with respiratory issues, health advisories all the way out to the East Coast from the wildfire smoke, etc., etc. It's in that context that we are very concerned about the enormous amount of electricity that facilities like the Bitcoin facility use. There are numerous media reports that liken Bitcoin electricity consumption to the annual use of entire nations or states like New Zealand or Ireland or the state of Virginia. And since off-the-grid electricity mostly is not from renewable energy but from fossil fuel sources, the Bitcoin also generates high carbon emissions, thus adding to the climate crisis that we are in. In fact, a senior Forbes writer's headline in an April article said that, quote, Bitcoin could churn out 130 million tons of carbon, undermining climate action. So since the Herald and Tribune reported that in its rezoning application last year, the Telford facility, their proposed use was said to be a blockchain data center and solar farm. Now the data center is in operation, there is no solar farm. So we are asking the Commission to help get the facility to implement that second portion of the proposal that they have then made, and also that for any possible future such facilities, there be a requirement to offset the high electricity consumption with some form of renewable energy. We feel that no additional Bitcoin facilities should locate in this county unless the demand at least is is met through climate benign energy. And there is some precedent for this in the United States. For example, the city of Missoula, Montana, requires all Bitcoin operations to be offset with renewable energy. So that's what we would very much hope for your help in this matter, because of the urgency of what is happening with the climate now and what we will have to expect to get much worse unless some action is taken to really reduce our carbon emissions. Thank you again for letting me speak to this concern.
Thank you, Francis, very much. Right, our vice speaker is Gary Higgins. Gary, if you'll come forward to the podium, please.
Thank you for hearing me.
Yes,
My name's
sir.
Gary Higgins, 1749 Bailey Bridge Road. I never thought I'd look forward to going deaf so I can get a hearing aid, that way I can shut it off. But it's really bad out there. In fact, if you just stop and listen at this noise you hear from this air conditioner, is what we hear in the house with the TV going, with everything going, the oven, everything. And it's bad. It's going to be for the rest of our lives, 24/7. It does not go away. And I've always heard with big business, it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. And I think that's probably what's happened here. Once they got it in, which they did, they're in. It's like there's no getting them out now. And the noise is so bad, and in my experience, when something bad was coming to town or in your neighborhood, you would get a letter saying there's going to be a meeting, and you'd get to go voice your opinion on this nuclear waste dump or whatever that's coming down the road, and we never got any letters like that. And, Limestone, if you've ever been out that area, it's absolutely beautiful. That's why we all live out there. We look at the mountains, we hear cows, we hear tractors running, we hear the wind coming from the west. We don't hear any of that now. All we hear is a constant airboat. If you've ever gone to Florida and been on an airboat, that's what it sounds like running outside your house at full throttle. And this Bitcoin, if you research it, it's a foreign company. It's a bad, like a third world company, and they're hated like a nuclear waste dump. Nobody wants them. You see people, this is happening in Maryland, it's happening all over the place. But it takes somebody, I hate to say sell out to let them in, but nobody wants Bitcoin. But they're here now. And Bright Ridge, I'm actually upset at Bright Ridge. Nobody seems to be upset with them because they're the ones that took their money and put it out there by us. You notice it's not in Gray. It's not in Boones Creek. It's not right up at Bright Ridge facilities, which they have a substation right there. They could have just built it right there. And then when I saw the part about Bright Ridge, the revenues are lower now because we're using LED bulbs or something, so they needed to make money, so they turned to Bitcoin to make money. I mean, that's not our fault out there. It's really, really bad out there. And property values, I've talked to real estate people, and they said, people aren't stupid. They're going to come out and walk on your land. They're going to go, what's that noise? And then they're going to find out. They're not going to live next to that. So I realize, I hope I'm not just, I feel bad for the people out in 81 and Lamar, but I hope I'm not just helping them by talking about this thing, because now that it's already out by us, I feel like it's not going to go anywhere now. So what are we going to have done? I don't feel anything's going to be done. And Mr. Ponder, Craig, was talking about maybe it's the wind that it's gotten louder. No, it's gotten louder because with these things, these computers, there's so many people using them, and they build up heat. So they've got to cool them down. Well, in the beginning, maybe they weren't running the fans as much, but now that it's already in, now that it's sort of under the table, the fans are getting louder. They're running faster, they're running louder, because their billions of dollars worth of equipment, their electronics, are getting hot. So they're like, we don't want our electronics to burn up, let's run the fans louder. Well, that's not our fault. They don't care if it goes above the decibel limit or not. they're running those fans louder, and it's getting louder all the time, and they're going to run them as fast as they need or put whatever they need to cool their equipment because they're not going to burn up their computers.
Gary, you've reached your time limit.
Thank you,
We
sir.
appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming, though. Thank you very much. All right, that'll conclude our public comment portion of the meeting this evening. Commissioner Williams had made the motion to bring the item up concerning the Election Commission. And that's where we have moved it to on the agenda, is right after the public hearing. Commissioner Wheeler, could you open that up for us since that is a Budget Committee item?
Yes, sir. We have in front of you for your consideration this evening resolution number 210711, a resolution authorizing funding from the capital projects funds for renovations to the George James Justice Center for Election Commission offices. This comes as a recommendation from the Budget Committee. However, I am not going to move to approve this resolution as it is written. Since the Budget Committee met, the Election Commission has met with the mayor and with the county attorney present, and they've made a request to stay where they are, pending us building some sort of building for early voting in offices. So, and I was not at that meeting, so I'm not, whatever my characterization is, other people may tell me I've heard wrong, that's fine. But the county attorney has worked on amendments to this resolution so that we can go ahead and get them moving and not delay them. And I'm going to ask her to read to you the amendments that she recommends, which will be my motion. I've been over them with her, but we thought it'd be a lot easier for her just to read them since it's her notes. But so at this point, Mr. Chairman, I'd ask that the county attorney be allowed to read the amendments, which will be my motion to approve.
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Wilkinson.
Thank you. If you've got your resolution in front of you, it's on page 145 of your packet. It's Resolution 210711. And as Commissioner Wheeler stated, the Election Commission called a meeting. So after the second whereas, it would be my recommendation that you consider a motion to amend this resolution. It's in front of you for the request for authority of funding from the Capital Projects Fund. So your action would be the same. It's for a certain amount of funding that's right at the bid threshold so that the county can move forward. And it would be a third whereas. And so you'd be adding language, whereas the Board of the Election Commission convened at a duly noticed meeting on Friday, July 23rd, 2021, to consider the proposed office space and determined that it would be in the best interest of Washington County citizens to renovate the existing location in the historic courthouse. Now, therefore, and then section 1 of the action, you'd be striking from that second sentence where it references the former district attorneys, and it would instead be the existing election commission's office up to that same amount of $9,999, and it's got an amount certain for design fees, but just remember those professional services are outside the bid threshold anyway. And then you would be adding at the end of section 1, after it says other capital outlay, this approval of renovation costs at the historic courthouse is intended to withdraw the allocation of office space approved in resolution number 210510. I'd be happy to answer any questions about what that accomplishes, but short and sweet, it is that the Election Commission reviewed the plans and requested to stay in the historic courthouse with renovations. They haven't seen this amended language. And so this would be authorizing funding to get renovations where they currently are, which is the request that they voted on as a board.
Commissioner Wheeler?
That would be my motion, and after, if there's a second, I'd like to, according to the rules,
have a second? A second by Commissioner Williams.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of things that I want to point out. We intend to come back, we intend to go back to the Budget Committee, and if the Budget Committee approves it, be back to you at our next monthly meeting with the authorization for funds to go forward with architectural renderings for another building. So that process would start right away, so that we can keep them in there temporarily, as temporary as we possibly can, by getting that started right away. There just was simply not enough time for the Budget Committee to meet and approve that resolution for tonight. Also, would have been drastically late, of course, getting to you. But that'll take place. I just want to make sure that's said tonight. It's just a matter of, we got to go back through that process to allocate those funds.
So we have a motion and second on the amended resolution.
I'd like to speak.
That's Commissioner Ford.
For over 3 years, we've been fighting this project. We're supposed to have an answer to it. We all voted on it. I don't know why it got out of the blue in the last little bit. We all decided that everybody going to the courthouse. So what's changed everything all of a sudden? I don't understand it. And what's $10,000 going to do to fix the third floor? Because in the last term I had, we spent money on the courthouse, so we're going to do it 10. We did it 10. So what are we talking about redoing? And why are we changing all of a sudden in the middle of the street? I don't know who that needs to be addressed, but well, I mean, Ms. Jones, who? Mayor, let me ask you this, Mayor. Why all this been changed after the committee voted on it?
So there was an original request from the Election Commission to relocate into the Justice Center space that was previously occupied by the district attorney. One of the requests from this commission of the mayor's office was to develop designs that would facilitate that move and bring back to the commission costs associated with doing that. So there were two proposals made. One that was a fairly simple modification at this level, roughly $10,000 to be accomplished fairly quickly. And the other proposal involved a significant amount of renovation, adding exterior doors to that space, demolishing walls, placing ceiling for HVAC, lighting, electrical, that was estimated by the architect to be somewhere, if I recall, around $90,000. So the Budget Committee proposed that we bring forward the smaller amount to the full commission for consideration and renovation. In light of that, the Election Commission met last week to reconsider the move, and I will say it was on the heels of a visit and a study by a Homeland Security expert who did a risk evaluation of the facility, safety of the people, that sort of thing. So there was a lot of information that came before the Election Commission that they hadn't had in the past. So in any event, that was their request to this body that they be allowed to remain on the third floor of the courthouse, where they might have a little extra space and do some renovation to facilitate their what's anticipated to be a short stay in that facility, and request that this body consider moving forward with a standalone election office that was originally contemplated way back in 2007 when this building was built, and also voting center associated with that. You may recall that we have 2 election cycles of voting committed in an off-site location, and so that solution needs to be addressed in any event. And so building them brand new, modern office space that specifically is designed for their needs and safety in this new facility is what they asked us to do. This is a temporary solution for roughly 24 months.
What kind of remodels will be done with that kind of money? With, I'm not an architect, but I'm not a builder, but $10,000 can go anywhere much on remodeling anything. I know, you know as well as I do, we've had a big problem up there with mold. And I just wonder, we want to, you can't cover up a problem, or you can take care of the problem. I was wondering, what's going to be done with that kind of money, you know?
Not designed yet, but again, some safety considerations for those folks working out there, and also security is probably key.
All right, are you good with this, Dana? Just what you want?
If they will build us a building, my staff is on board for this. Yes, sir.
I didn't understand, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
If
Dana, why don't you just come on up here to the microphone? I think that'd be best. Miss Dana Jones, she's our election administrator. She's working hard every day on there for us. And we appreciate all you do, Dana, and I'm really proud of all the work that you all have worked out to come to a resolution on this. So thank you so much and the mayor as well, and the election commission. We appreciate you, but go ahead, and I know there is several questions here tonight. So, Commissioner Ford, you have the floor. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Is this what you want? Is this your temporary solution? Is this what, I'm the impression, the last meeting we had, we voted on it, that it's already set in stone, is it something? I just wonder what happened all of a sudden.
Well, we were given 2 floor plans to choose from, and one was the one that we designed, and the one was shared office space, and there was some gray area there. And unfortunately, with the space that they gave us, I had enough room to put 5 offices in there, and then I would have had put 2 people in the same office. Now, Mayor Joe has been very gracious to us to show us that he has a plan and he has money in the budget to build us a location, which we're very grateful for, off-site. And he said if we could hang on for 2 years, that he would have that site well underway. So I went back and I talked to my staff, because ultimately, that's their decision too.
They've done without for a long time with them too.
They really have. They really, really have. So I looked at them and I told them what Mayor Joe was graciously offering them, and I let them vote. And their decision was if we could get the space taken care of upstairs, a few things tweaked around and cleaned up, because the problem is we're running over top of each other where we are right now, because the county's grown and grown and grown and grown, but our space is not. Our space has been shrinking. So that we have made requests to take the money that they were going to put in this office to put in our office upstairs, so that we can kind of reorganize a few things and get some things straight, and make our space that hopefully we can run a better election this time, because we have nowhere to set up our precinct information. And also put some cameras up there, which Mayor Joe says that he will have up and running for us within 3 months, correct? So, and security for us within 3 months. So for 2 years, we're going to hang in there, bite the bullet for 2 more years until we can get it up and running, if that's correct?
Well, I attended their meeting also, and I can assure you, at the end of the meeting, this is what Dana and her employees settled on as the best option.
I invited the staff to the meeting too, because again, it's their office as much as it is mine, so I didn't want to just speak for them.
I just know I've talked with them several times, been there several times. I've looked at y'all's location several times. And then I just don't know what you're gonna get done for $10,000. I hope you do it for that, but, you know, if you're good with it, I'm good with it, but I talked to employees, and I know they were really looking forward to having another facility, another place to go to, because I know a lot of them's been sick.
Yes.
And I know part of it's has got to be because of the mold that they're having. And I just know that they've went without a long time, and I think it's about time for their time to come up. So if you're happy,
Well,
I'm
they're excited about a new building, and I was very happy to hear Jim say that he's going to follow through with it on the budget committee, so I look forward to that. I really do.
They're hard workers, they do a good job, and we ought to be very proud of them. And show them
They're phenomenal.
a little more than a pat on the back. So if you're good with it, I'm good with it.
We appreciate it. We appreciate your all support. We really do.
All right. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With all due respect, Commissioner Ford, while there was an issue several years ago with some water coming into that space, you know, once that situation was identified and experts come out there with an air quality test, there is no mold in that space up there today. And in addition to that, we have put air purification system up there on that floor, and that is, I don't want the general public or others to think that we're putting any of our employees in a situation that is at least hazardous or cause any health conditions, and that's certainly not the case in that space.
It may not be there today, but I have seen it, because I've been up there several times, and I've got several pictures of it, so. And I'm not putting that out to the community either, but I'm just, you know, facts are facts and truth is truth, and spade is spade, so, that's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Ford. Anyone else would like to speak before we move on to vote? Dana, appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
To the Election Commission, we appreciate them. Yes, Commissioner Kate?
No, I was calling for questions.
Oh, question. Yes, I'm ready for that. Dana, thank you. Madam Clerk, the question's been called. If we can switch to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 13 yes, 0 no, 2 absent, and the resolution passes. Thank you, Commissioner Wheeler. Right, our next item, we'll move back into public hearing for our rezonings this evening. We have several rezonings to consider. Our first one is Mark Kolarski. It'll be in the 7th Civil District, R1 to Low Density District to the PBD2 Planned Business District. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Opposition? Seeing none, is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this request? Sir, if you'll come forward, give your name and address to the clerk, please. You'll be on the same time schedule, 3 minutes.
Good evening, my name is Mark Kolarski.
540 Loveless Road, Fall Branch, Tennessee. Here tonight to try to get you all to approve a rezoning request we have next to the pharmacy that I own there in Fall Branch now. We'll put 2 offices there and a courtyard type storage facility. It will be a lot like the one that it'll be affiliated with the one at Storage Source 1 out here on Forest Drive. A nice facility. Add to the community, I think. Fall Branch, I moved to Fall Branch when I was a kid in 1976. There were gas stations, there were hardware, there was restaurants, and now there's just not hardly anything. And this won't be the last time I'll be here. We're trying to do something for the community. We moved pharmacy from down in the lower part of town and bought it up there across from the dollar store.
It's, it's a tough business. We're trying to make it work. We will make it work. And we just, we would like to bring a clinic. We're trying to work on this thing one step at a time. I'm here for any questions, but I'd greatly appreciate your support. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate you coming forward and speaking tonight for your request, and we'll move back in. We've got a couple more to do, but we'll get back to your approving your resolution here in just a moment. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor tonight of this particular rezoning? Seeing none, our second one to consider tonight is Brian L. Maggard. This property is located in the 12th Civil District, A1 General Agricultural District to the B3 General Business District. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing none, anyone like to speak in favor of the request? Yes, if you'll come forward, sir, to the podium and give your name and address to the clerk. You'll also have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Maggard. I live at 2070 King College Road in Bristol, Tennessee. Last fall, I purchased this property, which is 3550 Bobby Hicks Highway in Gray, Tennessee, currently zoned agricultural. The property is on the main artery through Gray, Bobby Hicks Highway, and to the north of it, it's already zoned for business. It's 3.8 acres and is surrounded by residential areas and probably would not serve much of an agricultural purpose. And as such, Gray is growing rapidly, and I figure it will eventually be zoned business anyway, so I was wanting to go ahead and make the move to do that now. My plan is to initially place 2 storage buildings there with room for possible RV and boat storage, possible expansion in the future. And I greatly appreciate your attention to this.
Thank you, Brian. We appreciate you coming and speaking in favor of your request. Is anyone else here to speak in favor? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next one. That's the zoning resolution text amendment. It's for accessory structures in the A1 district. Is there anyone here in the public hearing that would like to speak in favor of that request or in opposition to? All right, we'll move on to the next one, the zoning resolution text amendment regarding addiction recovery residential homes. Is there anyone here in favor of, would like to speak in favor of the request? In opposition to? Seeing none, the next one is zoning resolution text amendment customary home occupations in the R1 residential district. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of the request? Or in opposition to the request? Seeing none, the zoning resolution text amendment updating all references from the zoning administrator to planning director. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to those changes? Or speak in favor of? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and move back into general session. Our zoning administrator, careful on that, right, Angie? Will come forward to address these changes and any questions that you may have. Angie, thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you. We'll start with the 2 rezonings that are on the agenda. The purpose for both of these, as you heard, is to accommodate the self-storage facilities. The Planning Commission reviewed both rezoning requests and recommended approval of them at their July meeting. and no opposition has been received on either of those items. Are there additional questions? All right. The remaining 4 items that we have are text amendments. The Planning Commission and staff have been working together on a series of amendments to update our zoning resolution. So this evening, we do have 4 before you. All 4 have been recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. The first pertains to the A1 zoning district, and this pertains specifically to accessory structures for residences. And I heard the comment in our public comment portion of the meeting, and this is specifically in the A1, the General Agriculture District, and accessory structures are allowed for residential uses. So these are accessory structures that are subordinate to residential uses. So an example would be a yard barn or a detached garage. So again, it would be not for a commercial use, if that helps answer that question from earlier. So presently, they're allowed in the side and the rear yards on the property, and the amendment would allow them to also be placed in the front yard. And this is something that we've seen a need for with our citizens, mostly due to the fact that we have such diverse topography and irregular lot shapes in our area, that a lot of times that's the only place that you can put a structure. So this would be something that would assist citizens all over the county. The second text amendment creates a definition for an addiction recovery residential home. And this is one that the Planning Commission has discussed, and we've also held a workshop to discuss this use and allowing this use, defining it, and then creating a kind of a home for it in the zoning resolution. And it was determined that the A3 and the MS zoning districts were the appropriate places to allow this as a permitted use. And this is very much in keeping with how you see the traumatic brain injury residential home defined and where it's placed and allowed in the zoning code. And we looked at that from different ways and different perspectives, and one of which was the actual impact, the land use impact that use would have on the property. So it was very comparable to the traumatic brain injury homes in terms of traffic generation and lot size and necessary structures that would go with that. Your third text amendment would just be pertaining to the R1 zoning district, which is your residential, and it would allow for home occupation requests to be administratively approved. And this was generated by the Planning Commission, and it would be in keeping to how home occupation requests are treated in the A1 district today. And then the final one is a housekeeping measure. As the county no longer has the zoning administrator position, it would be removing references to that title from our zoning resolution and replacing it with the title of planning director. So may I answer any questions about any of these 4 amendments?
Yeah, I would just have one on the A1 district. Could they not go and have a variance or something instead of changing it to allowing that in the front yard? I mean, is that something that would be possible?
It's possible for a certain percentage of the cases. You can request a variance, but the state has a definition or set of criteria that has to be met to grant a variance. So your Board of Zoning Appeals has to find a hardship with the property, and it could be something such as irregular lot shape or a topographic hardship or some reason like that. It wouldn't, you couldn't just go and ask for a variance without the justification for the board to grant it. So yes, it could apply to some of the properties, but not all.
So you can put one in the backyard now, correct?
Correct.
And in the side yard?
And in the side, yes, sir.
And so you could put a building in front of your house?
If this amendment would be approved, then yes, you could have a detached garage or a storage building in between your house and the road. There. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's only in the A1 district. So are we thinking of that as a residential property? I mean, there are residential properties in the A1 district.
Yes, sir, and that is primarily what this is targeting. It's for the accessory buildings that are associated with those residential uses. They're subordinate to that residential use. Yes, sir. So it would not be applicable in your residential zoning district, such as the R1, the R2. This is just for the agriculture zoning.
Yeah. Commissioner Davenport, did you have a question?
Yeah, do we have any data showing us how many times this has came up and how many times this has been a problem?
We don't have data in terms of how many cases. I can tell you that frequently, like every week, there's at least one person or one applicant that comes in. But in terms of getting approved by the commission, it is the most common request that the Board of Zoning Appeals sees.
Without seeing some numbers and really going forward, you know, you could get one request every week, and if we put this in and it would happen, we could have 20 people have a problem with that one request. So without having a little more numbers, or a little more information, I'm not
Sure.
comfortable with it.
Sure, and we can certainly get more information for you. That is just fine.
And maybe technology.
Sure. No, we would be happy. It's the will of this commission, and we'll be happy to get anything you might need.
Commissioner Ford?
Are you, did I understand you right and correct by saying that it's A1, that if you're in A1 district, zone A1, that they can have outbuilding on the side
Yes, sir.
and on the back,
Yes, sir.
but now they couldn't have one on the front, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
But with this, if we accept this, they can't deny, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're saying you just have one once in a while, ask for a variance, do they ask for a variance, or what they ask?
The ones that do ask for a variance, that have that, either that have that hardship, those do get approved. Yes, sir. That is the most frequent request that we have on our Board of Zoning Appeals agenda.
But not all get approved, right? I mean, it's just, you have to reach that hardship threshold.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's correct.
All right. Commissioner Tester?
Well, I just wanted to point out that the proposed language also includes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a limitation that it's within, not within 30 feet of the road, is that right? Or the front lot line?
That is correct, and that's in keeping with the principal setback. So if you were to build just a single-family residence on the property, that front yard setback's going to be 30 feet. So it's not going to be any closer to that front property line.
It already 30 feet?
Yes, sir.
What would it be on the side, though? I mean, like you had a home next door to you, you know, I mean, you wouldn't want to sit on your front porch and look at their yard barn, you know, all day. I mean, I'm just saying I wouldn't. So,
Sure.
I mean, is there a setback off that property as well?
Yes, sir. The accessory structures, when placed in the side or rear yard, can be up to 12 feet off the side and rear property lines.
Yeah.
Is there any limitation on the size of these accessory buildings?
Not in the A1, there is not. There is in other zoning districts, but not in the A1.
Has that been helpful for you to have limitations of size?
In the R1s, it has been, and in the residential zoning districts, and that's because that's typically where we see our smaller lot sizes. So it's more of what you would think of as an urban development instead of larger lots. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any further questions for our zoning administrator? All right, we'll start down the list, Angie. We'll start looking at these resolutions. So don't you go far, though.
Okay.
You know?
I'll wait here.
All right, sounds good. All right, our first one is resolution number there is the Washington County Regional Planning Commission minutes. They're in your packet from July the 6th. It's on page 6. The first resolution is number 210701, is a resolution rezoning the tax map in the 7th Civil District, presently owned by Mark Kolarski. It's on page 20. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Malone, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald to approve that resolution.
Call the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch to the voting screen, go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 2 absent, and the resolution passes. All right, our next item is Resolution 210702, is a resolution rezoning the tax map in the 12th Civil District, presently owned by Brian Maggard, page 23. You have a motion? Motion made by Commissioner Malone, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald to approve the resolution. Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 13 yes, 0 no, 2 absent, and the resolution passes. The next resolution is Resolution 210704, is a resolution amending the Washington County zoning resolution accessory structures in the A1 district. That's on page 26. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I believe you used the wrong number there. That may be some confusion. Wrong resolution number. You said 04.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Wheeler. That is resolution number 210703. Is a resolution amending the Washington County zoning resolution, accessory structures in the A1 district. That's page 26. Do we have a motion? And the motion dies. For lack of a motion.
I'll make a motion that we defer it back to the Planning Commission for further consideration and encourage the commissioners to give feedback and thought to
All right.
those terms. So I'll make a motion that we defer.
Motion made by Commissioner Malone to defer it back to the Planning Commission. Commissioner Kate seconds it. Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you announce the vote, 12 yes, 1 no, 2 absent. The resolution is deferred. Right, going back to resolution number 210704 is a resolution amending the Washington County zoning resolution addiction recovery residential homes on page 28. Do we have a motion? Motion made by Commissioner Fitzgerald. Second by Commissioner Edens. That's to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions?
Call for the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 12 yes, 1 no, 2 absent, and the resolution passes. Last resolution is Resolution 210706, is a resolution amending the Washington County zoning resolution, updating all references from zoning administrator to planning director, and on page 34. The motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hellfire, second by Commissioner Ford to approve the resolution. Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 13 yes, 2 absent, and the resolution passes. All right, anything else, Ms. Shaw? Commissioner Jones, I'm sorry.
Addiction recovery, residential homes.
I thought Commissioner Fitzgerald made the motion on that.
We did that one?
Yes.
All right. I heard customary home, I heard the last one.
I guess we did miss number 5. I'm sorry, I've just been up here for 4 hours. I think, Commissioner Wheeler, if you don't mind to move on up this way, I'm going to take me a short break. All right. 210705 is the one that we need to go back to. All right, 210705 is a resolution amending the Washington County zoning resolution customary home occupation in the R1 low-density residential district. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion, at least for discussion purposes, and may have a question.
Okay, we have a motion,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Jones.
Yes. Ms. Charles, I just wanted to make sure, and you may help refresh my memory, but this one is more about renumbering and moving things within the existing policy. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We currently allow home occupations in the R1. They go before the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission requested that we move it so that it could be processed administratively by staff. Correct. Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes. If it's a home occupation beauty shop, yes, ma'am. Correct. That would be separate. Yes, ma'am.
All right, question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 2 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones, is there any more I forgot on there we need to back up to and get? Huh? Y'all ready for a recess?
Yes.